Welcome everyone to Insights into the Haftorah, the weekly Haftorah. This coming week is Parshat Mekeitz, and the Haftorah comes from the first book of Kings, the third chapter. As we always introduce every class with the question, what is the connection between the Haftorah and the portion of the week? The general principle is what we have to look for. What is the connection? So this week is Parshat Mekeitz. And here, Mekeitz literally means it was at the end of 2 years, and Pharaoh had a dream. What are these 2 years talking about? So if we remember, in the previous Parsha ends, Yosef is in jail. He's in jail for 10 years. And the butler and baker have a dream. And Yosef interprets it for them correctly. And exactly what he said would happen, happened. The butler was returned to his position as the butler of Pharaoh. And the baker was hung. And Yosef said, please, when you return to Pharaoh, tell him I'm in jail for false reasons, for false pretenses. Please help me get out of here. And the parsha ends that the butler forgot. He didn't remember. And so here it says that at the end of 2 years, Pharaoh has a dream. And then he has two dreams. He has two dreams. At the end of the first dream, it says, Vayikatz Paro, which is close to the word Mekeitz. Here, Mekeitz means at the end of 2 years. But it also means like he woke up startled. He woke up from his dream and he remembered his dream. And it says it twice. So now we can understand why this is the Haftorah, because here it begins with the word Vayikatz. Vayikatz Shlomo v'hinei chalom. Vayavo Yerushalayim v'yamod lifnei Aron Brit Hashem v'yal alot v'yas shlamim v'yas mishteh lekol avadav. So here it says that Shlomo, King Solomon, wakes up from a dream and he comes to Jerusalem and he stands before the Holy Ark and he offers up offerings and he makes a celebration for all of his, for all of the people. Shlomo becomes king when he's 12 years old. And there's a real question here because what happens next is it tells one story. It tells the story of two zonot, two prostitutes that come for judgment in front of Shlomo. And the story is, and the whole Haftorah tells us this one story. One second. And the story is these two women are together in a house and they're by themselves and they both give birth at the same time, more or less, exactly the same time. And they go to sleep and one of the women, like by mistake, lies on her newborn baby and smothers him and he dies. And she takes her dead child and she exchanges it for the other woman's live child as she's sleeping. And so when the woman wakes up and she sees a dead child, she's like, and she looks at it, she said, this is not my child. This is not the one I gave birth to. And so she's basically accusing the other woman of exchanging the children. So they come to Shlomo and they explain the whole story to him. And Shlomo says, bring me a sword. I will cut the baby in half, and I'll give one half to you and one half to you. And when the woman whose son was really the live one and it was exchanged, says, no, don't do it. Let she can have the baby. Let the baby live. And the other woman said, no, cut the baby in half. We'll both have half. And Shlomo says, the woman who said, let the baby live, don't cut, she is the true mother. Because a true mother would never agree to have her baby cut in half, even if she would lose her to a false accusation. And the Haftorah continues and says, when people heard this judgment, they were like in awe of his wisdom. And it just ends by saying, it says that all of Israel heard about this. Word got around that Shlomo was able to discern this in this almost cunning way, and it became known that he had Chachmat Elokim. He had the wisdom of God. And then it says, and Shlomo ruled over all of Israel. Remember, he's 12 years old when this happens. Now, there's a real question here, because the Haftorah begins that Shlomo woke up from a dream. He came to Jerusalem and he gave judgment in this case. Before that, though, is about the whole dream. So the question might be, why did they choose the judgment as the Haftorah and not the whole dream that he had? What was the dream? That was in the preceding verses. Again, this starts in the 3rd chapter. But what happens is when Shlomo became king, it says that he fell asleep, he had a dream, and God came to him and said, Shlomo, make a wish. Like, what do you want? And I'll give it to you. Anything you want, I'll give it to you. And Shlomo makes like an impassioned, and it's in the book of Malachim, plea that he has wisdom to judge the people correctly. And God answers and says, since you asked for wisdom, and you didn't ask for money, you didn't ask for power, you didn't ask for renown, fame, I will give you wisdom, and I'll give you all those other things as well. And that's where the Haftorah begins. So the question is, why, if our Torah portion is really about the dreams of Pharaoh, why didn't they choose the dreams of Shlomo and just start when he woke up from the dream? So there's a possibility, this is how I understand it, is just like when Pharaoh has these dreams, and it says that he called all of his advisors and no one could interpret it. So Rashi tells us in the name of the sages, it's not true. They gave interpretations, but Pharaoh knew these were not he could feel they're not the right interpretations. He didn't know exactly what the interpretation was, but he knew what it wasn't. And then the butler speaks up and says, oh, when I was in jail, there was this Hebrew slave who interpreted my dream. Pharaoh calls for Yosef, and everyone knows the story. He interprets the dreams, but then he gives Pharaoh advice. Now, you have to understand, in those days, if you spoke out of turn in front of a king, he could kill you on the spot. The king had absolute power. There wasn't like a court system in those days like we know. The king had full power. So here, he's a Hebrew slave who's been in jail for 12 years. He interprets the dreams, and then without skipping a beat, he starts to tell Pharaoh what he should do about it. And that's what the whole idea of, you'll have 7 years of plenty, and you should appoint someone to gather up all the grains, the whole story. So here, Pharaoh, when he hears this advice, he says, is there anyone as wise as this person? And he appoints Yosef to be second in charge of Egypt. He becomes the viceroy. So that's probably why they chose not necessarily to do the whole dream, but it starts with the same word, Mekeitz Shlomo. He woke up startled from the dream, just like Pharaoh twice woke up startled from the dream. But here, the common theme is not only the dream, it's the wisdom of Yosef, and it's the wisdom of Shlomo. One last thing. In the end of the Haftorah, it says that people recognized that he had what was called the wisdom of God. So in Kabbalah, the letter that's associated with Chokhmah, wisdom, is the Yud. The letter Yud of the 4 letters of God's name, the Yud is Chokhmah, the first Hey is Bina, the Vav are the 6 called Zer Anpin, Chesed Gevura Teferet, Netzach Hod Yesod, and the final Hey is Malchut. So Yud, the letter Yud, is associated with wisdom. So this is a Torah from Rav Ginsburg that I'm showing you the letter Yud. According to Kabbalah, even the way a Yud is written, there's actually 3 parts to a Yud. The crown is, or the tip right here is like its own level. The body, and this is called the pathway. The Yud has 3 levels. This is what the Baal Shem Tov called worlds, souls, and divinity. So there's a type of worldly wisdom, and that's what Shlomo had. So I'm going to read now from the book of Malachim, and it says like this. This is from the 5th chapter, the 9th verse to the 14th verse. It says, and God gave Shlomo vast wisdom and understanding, and also largeness of heart, like the sand that is on the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the East country. And then he names a number of names. His fame was in all nations around about. And now it explains what kind of wisdom, how was it manifest? And he spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his poems or songs were 1,005. And he spoke of trees, from the cedar tree that is in Lebanon to the hyssop that comes out of the wall. He spoke also of beasts and of birds, and of creeping things and of fishes. And there came those from all peoples to hear the wisdom of Solomon, from all kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. So here it's called the wisdom of Solomon. In the end of the Haftorah, it says the wisdom of God. So Rav Ginsburg explains that wisdom has three levels here. The wisdom of the worlds, this is what's called the wisdom of Shlomo, of Solomon. And here it says he spoke of trees. He from the cedar tree that was in Lebanon to the hyssop that comes out of the wall, he spoke also of beasts and of birds and of creeping things. But some say it's not that he only spoke of, he spoke with. That Shlomo knew the language of the birds, of the animals, of the trees. But this is all called a worldly wisdom. And the two higher levels are called Chochmat Elokim. And this one is in the level of souls. And that is Shlomo in the Haftorah, his wisdom of judgment. That he could judge souls, he could judge circumstances, human circumstances. And the top level is the pure wisdom of God that was pouring through Shlomo, through prophecy and through divine inspiration. So here we see that Shlomo had a earthly wisdom, a kind of like a soul kind of wisdom, and also a divine wisdom. And this is connected to the Yud, which is Chachma. And as we learned, that this is what Shlomo asked for. He asked for wisdom to judge the people correctly. And so God gave it to him on all three levels. So may we all merit to know what to ask of God when he offers to give us anything that we want. We should know what to ask for.